The phone now with Peter Montanaro, who's the head of the Delegated Authorities Unit at Lloyd's. Peter is speaking to us today from Dallas. He's out there at the American Association of Managing General Agents Conference at the Fairmont Hotel in Dallas, Texas. Peter, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. I'm well. I'm enjoying the conference. It's very good. And last year was good, but this year's an improvement on last year. So yeah.
Well,
having a good time.
That's good to know. Actually, delegated authorities have become pretty hot news lately. I think in the structure of Lloyd's, at least the last time I looked at an org chart, you're somewhere under Tom Bolt, and Bolt is being quoted frequently on the need to get better data for the delegated authorities. Is that something you're...
Absolutely. Yeah, delegated underwriting is one of the key areas of the Lloyd's strategy for the next 3 years. We see it as the key distribution channel for Lloyd, so we're trying to extend our number of cover holders. Cover holders is what we refer to MGAs as in moment, and which is good for me personally, of course, because that's my department.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Tom is very keen that those cover holders we welcome in meet all the criteria necessary to enable them to operate properly for Lloyd. So yeah, it's very high on everyone's agenda, which is good for us, and is really why I'm here in Dallas today.
One of the things we noticed on the Lloyd's business plan going forward, I forget its exact title on the website, is that Bolt is very clear, as you just mentioned, about the expansion of the delegated underwriting authority book of business over the next 3 years. Can you clear something up? We hear continually different numbers on what percentage of the premium dollar are represented in Lloyd's by the delegated authorities.
It's 21% is pure cover holders,
Mm-hmm.
21% of our income, and then if you include service companies, which are cover holders that are owned by our managing agents, it takes the total up to 30%, just over 30%. So it's around about 5 billion annual income sterling.
Now, if we applied the typical pro rata proportions of the American portion of Lloyd's business, just ballpark-wise, what does that then come to for American cover holder business?
Around half our cover holder income comes from the U.S.
So that's about
the largest digital market for it.
About $2.5 billion a year sterling.
Yeah.
No, that's not chopped liver, as they say. That's quite a bit of money.
No, so
Yes.
We've got around about 900 cover holders in the U.S.
Well, speaking of which, one of the things that we found, we've been out, as you know, CATEX owns CATEX Solutions, which produces the Pivot Point Broad Order Management System. And one of the things that we found out in the hustings, as we've been talking to some of those 900 plus Lloyd's cover holders in the U.S., is that oddly enough, some of the same issues that are presented to the syndicates are mimicked even at that level. The syndicates, as is well known, and as is what is really your remit, it seems these days, making sure that the incoming data from all the various cover holders is uniformly tracked and being able to pull out on a very disaggregated level any particular insured risk. The cover holders themselves seem to frequently not be the originators of the business, but in fact then intake the business from a multiple of different retailers. So the cover holders, in fact, are complaining to us that their incoming data that they then have to prepare to send onward to the syndicates is coming in a manner that we always refer to as different cats and dogs. Do you, in your perch from London, do you see it getting down to this level, all the way down to that close to the actual first check writer?
I mean, that's how we hear things are, and clearly that's not good enough. Going forward, we need to change that. I mean, the utopia is that the information that's loaded on by the retail agent, nobody then touches it again until it gets through to London. So we need to have standard data, and we need to have the systems in place to control the quality of the data that comes through. So I think the guys from AAMGA call it a war on keystrokes. So
Yes.
less human intervention from the retailer all the way through to the syndicate, then the better for everyone. We are a long way from that utopia in terms of across the whole market, but we are seeing sort of green shoots. There are already a number of cover holders and retailers that can work direct with no manual input after their original input all the way through to the underwriter. We just want to increase those numbers. And, you know, at the end of the day, bordereau management systems like the ones that you guys do and many of your competitors who are here on this conference are an important step for us to go forward that, not only in terms of managing our business more efficiently. Lloyd syndicates need to manage their aggregates properly, which means we need up-to-date, really real-time data as to what's being written, and the requirements of compliance are getting greater and greater, which means we need to be analysing data at a far more granular level than we ever have before, and we can only do that with quality systems in place.
Well, from your lips to God's ears, if it might be of interest to you that even down at the levels closest to the original check writer, we find a knowledge and awareness that there's a push coming from the other side of the equation, coming from Lloyd's, coming from determination on the part of the London-based regulators, if you will, in order to get more disaggregated, clean data. So the message is being heard. Could you talk a little bit about, will this be out in front of Solvency II, or do you expect that the Solvency II standards, when they finally appear in London, will perfectly be in set with what you're talking about?
I think a lot of what we're looking for is in keeping with where Solvency II will take us. I mean, there needs to be clear audit trail for all underwriting decisions made and data collected. So I think actually the DA world is in a pretty good place as far as Solvency II goes, because of the controls we've already put in place. But bordereau management systems that are coming on will help support that and to clear some of those issues up. So Solvency II is going to have a big impact on the way business is managed. But actually, because of the work that a lot of the syndicates, our London brokers, and many of our MGAs have already done, I actually think we're in quite a good place.
Mm-hmm. And then one final question. When we read in the Insurance Day, Tom coming out talking about how these standards, insofar as being able to pull in and submit this disaggregated data, are ultimately going to become requirements, necessities. It always seems that it's a little bit sotto voce there at the end. Nobody wants to put the hard stop in insofar as saying, by this date, X and Y and Z have to be done. Has anything like that come out yet, or where are you guys in thinking about making the requirements mandatory, and by when?
Now, on the standards, we've mandated our standards for all new cover holders.
Mm-hmm.
So in part, that's because it's easy to do it for new
Yes.
guys, because they want to come into Lloyd's and they'll pretty much agree to anything at that stage. And we might as well have them already at the high level that we'd want them to be.
Yes.
In terms of our existing population of cover holders, I think in time they will all come round to what it is we're trying to do anyway. So I don't believe we're ever going to have to mandate this, because the reality is that for the cover holders to be able to perform equally against their peers, they're going to need to provide this quality of data anyway to our market, and our market is going to need it so they can manage their aggregate properly, and so they can ensure that all compliance matters are managed properly. So, for example, we expect all our syndicates and our cover holders to know that they're not in breach of any international sanctions, for example, with regard to who they may or may not be insuring.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't got good systems that can read business that you are writing, then that's something you're having to do manually, which effectively is not going to be cost effective against your competitors. So I hope that we don't end up having to mandate these standards for the rest of the market. I would expect that because what we're asking for is common sense and it's for everyone's common good, that ultimately everybody will move towards the standards anyway. And if the information we're getting and the sense we're getting from the Dallas conference is anything to go by, the MGAs are very keen to push these standards forwards as well. So I'm hoping that they will encourage our underwriters, as indeed the brokers already are, to embrace these standards as well, so we can all work together to roll them out as quick as possible. And of course, we have standards that makes life a lot easier for the system vendors as well, because they know exactly what it is they have to put in their solution to meet everybody's requirements.
Well, very good, Peter Montanaro. Thank you very much for taking the time to chat with us today. And I suspect the weather in Dallas is certainly better than here in New Jersey. It's about 37 degrees Fahrenheit, overcast and drizzly, so presumably it's better there.
It's nice here, and it's certainly nicer here than it is in London.
Well, touche. All right. Well, listen, thank you for your time.